He looked at her like a man checking a wound he thought had healed and finding it fresh. "Mara, we don't have to call it anything," she said. "We just have to try not to drown while the city decides if it wants us dead." A ghost of that different man's smile. "You make a poor case, and I want it." They spent the dawn in a borrowed office 2 floors over a florist that had closed years ago. Mara wrote like a woman whose ribs were a cage around something fierce. Kade read contracts and connected dots and circled names like curses. When her hands shook, his steadied them. When his voice broke, she pretended not to hear it. They built a story that was also a weapon and also a door. At noon, she called a press conference at the crumbling fountain outside City Hall. She sent the ledger and the phone dump to 3 papers that hated her, 2 that loved her, and 1 that tried not to have feelings. She sent the contracts to a blog that published everything and never apologized. She sent the pictures to a TV reporter who smelled blood the way the river did. People came, reporters, cops who weren't on Benson's holiday list, union reps with rain on their jackets, mothers with prams and rage, men who had lost everything and learned how to look empty. They came because the city had taught them that stories mattered, even if they hurt. Mara stepped to the mic, her bruises hid under good makeup and stubborn angles. Her words did not hide. She said the names. She said the deeds. She said, "Benson," like a verdict. Kade stood in the crowd, unremarkable as a bad decision. He didn't look at her, he didn't have to. He looked at the edges, at the corners, where danger likes to breed. When a black car nosed too close, he shifted. When a man with an old scar lifted his phone, Kade was a shadow near his elbow and the phone lowered. Quiet, necessary violences that left no marks. By evening, the city was a kettle. The council pretended surprise. The judge pretended offense. Benson tried to pretend outrage, but didn't sell it well enough. The harbor patrol dragged the river and found 1 body with an extra hole. Leo disappeared. Mara and Kade didn't pretend anything. They worked. They slept in shifts on a couch that smelled like dust and a future no one had ordered. At 3 a.m., someone knocked. No one knocks at 3 a.m. unless they have guns or God. Kade went to the door, spine loose, eyes empty. He opened it on its chain. Leo stood in the hall with his hands up and his face wrecked. He had a bandage behind his ear and blood on his collar, and a look like a man who had finally found his bottom. "I can testify," he said. "Not in open court, but enough." Mara looked at Kade. Kade looked at Leo for a long time and then at the floor. When he looked back up, he nodded once. "1 chance," he said. "You get 1 chance to be the man you told her you were." Leo came inside. He cried once. He told them everything. Names and cash and where Benson kept the documents he didn't trust even himself with. He told them about a list of addresses that were supposed to burn slowly enough that the right people got out and the wrong people didn't tea. He told them about a boy who didn't know his father kept a leash with his name on it. In the morning, the boy's mother went on television and said, "Enough." The council president resigned. The judge took a sabbatical. Benson stood down for the good of the city, while his lawyer collected new synonyms for crucified. The trick about monsters is, they molt. Kade had been right. Another would grow where Benson had shed. But for a while the city could breathe with both lungs. The part about love is harder. Mara and Kade kept trying not to call it anything until that became its own lie. Sometimes they met in public, coffee steaming against fogged windows, their knees touching under the table like teenagers who didn't know what to do with their hunger. Sometimes they met nowhere at all. His text, her door, the kind of silence that holds more than any sentence. He left jobs that paid well and wore a different kind of darkness, the kind that tries to stand in front of knives instead of sharpening them. It couldn't last. Nothing honest can. Not in a city like this. Not with men like Benson making more men like Benson. It took 3 months for the new molting to begin. It took 1 bad night for the price to be due. Mara was walking home from a late interview along the river path that pretends to be safe. A car coasted in beside her, matching her pace. The window clicked down. "Miss Coltrane," a voice said. "Get in the car." She kept walking. "Miss Coltrane," the voice repeated, "or we'll put your bones in a bag and carry you." "You forgot to say please," she said, and ran. She didn't make it. Men who practice catching women who run don't need pleas. They took her fast and soft, the way you take something you don't want attention drawn to. The bag did go over her head, but not for bones. She hit a trunk floor and counted her breathing to keep from screaming it away. They took her to a room that smelled like cleaning fluid over blood. Someone removed the bag and gave her a glass of water like an apology. The man in front of her had a beautiful tie. "Benson was messy," he said. "I am not." "You're a haircut," she said, "with a mouth." He smiled like a man being told the joke he had practiced. "You're going to stop writing stories that make my phone ring." "That's not how phones work," she said, and braced for the hit. It didn't come. He was cleaner than Benson. He was newer. He gestured. A screen lit up. Kade, on a feed, walking down a block near her building, unaware of cameras or men who wanted him to be.